What's up guys, my name is Rylan and behind me I have this 2020 RAV4 base model. Well, it's supposed to be the base model, it's actually the XLE, but we're going to be putting together this video like it is the base model. So like it is the LE, which is the base model of this car that starts at $25,670. Now as far as the important technical specifications of this vehicle, this engine is rated at 204 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. So that's definitely pretty low, especially when you consider the size of this vehicle. The RAV4 over the years, especially with this new update, has definitely gotten larger. As far as the MPG goes, you're looking at 27 in the city and 35 on the highway. Well, actually, hold the phone, it's actually 26 on the city when you get the base model version of this vehicle. So you lose 1 MPG compared to the next trim level up, which is the XLE. And you know what, I'm kind of clueless as to why that is, but I have a theory, and I believe that it's just simply that loss of MPG is because you get actual alloy wheels instead of steel wheels when you get the base model. So the base model has the steel wheels with the wheel covers on it. It's a 6-spoke. It looks very similar to this style. And as far as the XLE goes, I mean, you get those alloy wheels and you get fog lights, and then you get a driver power seat, and that's literally all the differences that you get on this version of the RAV4 compared to the base model LE. So you're talking about like a $2,000 difference. Is it worth it for those 3 features? Now one last thing before I move on from the technical specifications, and I do want to mention that this car, which is pretty important to mention, I'd say, is a top safety pick for 2019. So it's only a custom that 2020 is basically going to be the same thing, and that's through IIHS. Okay, stepping away from those technical specs and looking at the side profile of this vehicle, as I mentioned before, those are alloy wheels, and they're 17-inch. They're okay looking, they definitely fit the car. Moving on from there, you do get keyless entry, that's standard. Now with this RAV4, you do get tinted windows in the back. They are still slightly tinted in the front, so it does add a nice little look, especially paired up with this metallic gray paint job. And this paint job is just a standard paint job. There's no extra added charges or anything for getting this color. And in the light, you know what, it does look pretty nice. It's that metallic kind of finish, so it does sparkle under the right lighting. Now taking a look at the front end of this vehicle, and in my opinion, it's my favorite side of this vehicle. It looks very rugged and a little bit aggressive as well. And I don't know, the proportions to me, on this body style at least, just look right. Now for the headlights, you do get daytime running lights that are LED, and the headlights themselves are LED as well. What's really cool is this comes with standard automatic high beams on the base model. And if you don't know what automatic high beams are, it's pretty simple. When you have your high beams on and you're driving and there's a vehicle in the opposing lane, it automatically senses that and it'll turn your brights off for you, so you never have to turn your brights on and off. Now taking a look at the back end of this vehicle, and there's a few things that I do want to point out. The first is just the overall styling. It is definitely rugged back here as well, just as the rest of the side profile and the front end of the car all kind of mesh together. So it does look pretty good. I think what's throwing me off though is the styling. Probably thanks in part to these taillights as well, which are partial LED and they kind of wrap around to the side of the vehicle. It is a pretty cool style, but paired up with just this bulky kind of design back here and these wraparound taillights, they kind of look, it kind of looks all just Prius-esque to me, like some of those new Priuses you see on the road. Now my favorite feature of the back end is these little chrome tip exhausts that are tucked away here, and it just gives a little bit sportier appearance to this vehicle. Since we're back here, might as well take a look at the cargo bay. And again, another thing that's completely standard on the LE, which is the base model of this vehicle, is a power lift gate. Okay, open up. Technical difficulties, hold up. Hold on, I think I gotta open sesame. Open sesame times 2. That's it. Open sesame times 2 is how you get into any RAV4, okay? Keep note. Anyways, taking a look at the cargo area, moving some of this stuff out of the way so you can get a better representation of the cargo bay itself. And you know, you get this nice little rubber lined mat, which I appreciate, helps so your stuff doesn't slide around. And the cargo bay definitely goes pretty far back, which I like. You do get some hooks to tie stuff down and a privacy cover, which is really nice, standard on all models. And it just kind of hooks in right here. Like I had it right the first take, okay? This is the second take of this part of the car, and now it's messing with me. But it's pretty easy once it's hooked. I'm not even gonna deal with that. It's a two-handed job, all right? It's pretty easy. It just slides away like that. I'm glad that it's standard. You do get a spare tire under the cargo bay itself, which is nice. Some SUVs are kind of moving away from the whole spare tire scene. On the right side of the trunk itself, you get a standard 12-volt outlet, and then you get some just some tools for putting on that spare tire that Toyota includes. And then on the left side is nothing but hard plastic, solid. And yeah, that's about it for the trunk. If you're into, you know, hauling around golf bags, or you know, large suitcases or whatnot, or just an avalanche of groceries, or all of the above, you're gonna have no problem whatsoever fitting stuff back here. And the seats, of course, do fold down, a 60-40 split, so there's definitely ample room in this small mid-size SUV. All right, so moving on from the exterior and taking a look at the interior, and right off the bat, the first thing that just stands out to me in this interior on this base level vehicle is this infotainment screen. And it's a 7.5-inch infotainment screen, but the way it just kind of sits there on the dash, surrounded by absolutely probably the biggest bezels of 2020. I have to say this probably takes the cake for him. It looks okay. The screen itself just looks rugged. I don't know. I guess it matches the car in that sense. However, to me, from a tech standpoint, it kind of looks outdated. Kind of looks a little bit on the tacky side. But you know, nonetheless, for a base model vehicle, it's not that bad, and the screen is actually pretty big. I've seen smaller screens on newer cars before. It just looks smaller than it is screen-wise because of these absolutely chunky bezels. Now, as far as the dash itself, it is made of soft touch material. Pretty much the whole thing is soft touch, unless you get down to the glove box, which is hard plastic. And there is kind of like a multi-contour design of the dash going on, so you get these kind of tri-levels from the top, then the mid, and then the glove box kind of has its own little cubby spot where you can put phones or keys or whatnot. I think that's a really good storage spot. Now, moving on from the dash, and I want to talk about the steering wheel. It's just a standard 3-spoke steering wheel, and it feels really comfortable actually to hold in the hand. It's a very small size steering wheel, and I really appreciate that. It kind of gives a little bit of sportiness when you're overall driving this car. To have such a small steering wheel in your hand, it kind of makes the car feel a little bit more nimble than it normally would. Just like pretty much every steering wheel nowadays, it has a bunch of buttons to control either your infotainment screen or your little screen in between the gauge clusters. And normally I don't use these buttons too much on vehicles, but in this vehicle, with my driving position, I find myself like really having to reach for the infotainment screen itself, and it is touchscreen, but there's no other real controls. Now, as far as the steering wheel buttons go, it is pretty self-explanatory. However, there is a little bit different functionality compared to your typical car. This is on the right side for your cruise control buttons and to change the station or like the mode. So if you want to switch from Apple CarPlay or just the regular radio station, you can do that. And on the left side, it actually toggles through your little screen that you have in between the tachometer and speedometer, which displays just a ton of different information. You can change the driving mode through the screen. You can look at your MPG. You can turn off stability control or traction control or any of the safety features that come standard on this vehicle. Some of those safety features that come standard are lane departure warning and front collision warning, pedestrian front collision warning as well, so not just cars. So this car will brake for you if you're not paying attention, but don't rely on it, of course. But it does have that technology to apply the brakes if it thinks that you're gonna rear end someone or something. Now moving past the steering wheel and taking a brief look at the tachometer and speedometer, and there's no digital gauges at all when it comes to speedometer or tachometer. A lot of cars are moving to at least a portion of the speedometer being digital. This one has just standard analog, and it's in very easy to read font. Now as far as the resolution goes on this infotainment system, and it's not the best, it's kind of dull looking and definitely not the best quality at all, but it's still easy to read in the daylight, and the responsiveness of the system itself is not the best, but it doesn't lag too bad. There is I'd say like a half-second delay or a second delay sometimes in between when I push the button and then it actually enacts upon whatever I press. So there is somewhat of a delay, but again, it's not too bad. And overall, in a nutshell, the ability to connect your phone via CarPlay or Android Auto or Alexa is super cool in itself. Now moving on past the infotainment system and taking a look at the center console in its entirety, and there's very few buttons on the center console. You do get an electronic parking brake, which is becoming the norm in all brand new SUVs. Honestly, I haven't been in a brand new SUV that doesn't have an electric parking brake, so I'm just gonna say they all have it. And it's got the auto hold feature, which is nice. BMW that I reviewed a few months ago doesn't have an auto hold feature. This car does, and in a base level format, so that is cool. The auto hold feature, for those of you who don't know, is just you can press it and you don't have to have your foot on the brake anymore. The car will actually hold the brake automatically, and as soon as you're ready to go, say the light turns green at a stoplight, all you got to do is put your foot on the gas and the brake will turn off and you'll be clear to go. So it is definitely a convenient feature, especially if you're in a lot of traffic in the city. Now moving down from those buttons, and you have 3 different driving modes. You have Eco, you have Normal, and Sport. And most cars nowadays do have swappable or different driving modes, so that's nice. As far as storage in the center console, and there's a couple of places you get a little like storage compartment right here. It's very small, just like probably 2 inches, just below those driving functionality buttons, and it is lined in this rubber. Just past those buttons there is a bigger cubby, a standard place to have a little bit of storage in the car, and it is adequate. It's not really a rubber material, I should say. It's more of a plasticky material that kind of simulates rubber because of the pattern that it has. Now in this little cubby slot there is a USB port, an auxiliary port, as well as your standard 12-volt outlet, and these ports are positioned in a really nice spot. If you're charging your phone, you can just throw it in that cubby anyways, and the cord doesn't have to reach very far for it to charge your phone. Or if you have like some type of radar detector or whatnot, having a 12-volt outlet in this spot is a lot more convenient than having a 12-volt outlet in the main storage compartment itself. Now as far as the transmission lever, and it is somewhat standard looking, it's actually a little bit smaller than you usually find. It's like stubby, like they kind of chopped it in half and then just added the grip. I actually kind of really like it. It's very simple to use and it just feels nice in the hand, and I like how it's just not protruding up over the center console like 6 feet, you know what I'm saying? Like 6 inches or 8 inches up high, and it's just like right there, and it's a big old eyesore and everything. Now past the cup holders, and you get your main storage compartment with some water bottles inside. So it fits 2 water bottles super easy, and it can fit more than that. I'd say about 4 water bottles. And then there is 2 other USB charging ports back here, which is again a nice touch. So you get 3 charging USB ports in the front of this vehicle, which is really thoughtful of Toyota to add. Especially, you know, everyone has smartphones, and this is an SUV, so there's more than likely going to be multiple people with smartphones in this car, and having 3 USB ports is a plus, 100%. As far as taking a look at the door panels themselves, and in the inside, you know, the top half of it is definitely this hard plastic. It's not soft touch at all. I wish they, you know, brought some soft touch material to the top of this door. I could see a lot of people resting their arm there, and it's not the most comfortable spot to rest your arm. However, it's not that big of a deal. And then down below, you do get a little bit of soft touch material, traditionally where you would rest your arm, and it's okay. It's not too soft touch. I mean, there's a little bit of padding, but it's pretty thin. Now, as far as the switches go on the door panel, and it's pretty standard. You got your lock and unlock button, and then you got your button to roll up and down the window. This is one touch automatic for the front and passenger door. Now the dash and climate controls in this car are again pretty standard. What I do like are these knobs. They're very tactile feeling, and they're lined in rubber with this just interesting little spiral pattern going on. So it's, you know exactly what you're pressing, and you're definitely not going to slip off the climate controls at all. And it's got a pretty premium feel to it, I guess. There is some play in these knobs, which I wish it didn't have. I wish it was a little bit more buttoned down. But again, it's a small little thing, and this does have dual zone climate controls as standard. And as far as the seats go for this base model RAV4, they are super comfortable. Like, really, honestly, they are comfortable. They're firm but soft at the same time. And you know, they're vinyl seats for the base model. They got a little bit of pattern going on, but it's not like obnoxious at all. It's an interesting pattern that actually kind of looks okay. I don't really like patterns on seats at all, especially when it's like vinyl patterns, because, you know, they usually look pretty cheap. These are not bad at all. No complaints there. As far as the side bolstering goes, it's not the best. So if your driver is driving like an absolute maniac, or you yourself are driving this car like a maniac, you're gonna slide around quite a bit. Now with these seats, obviously one of the most important things to talk about is how's the headspace, how's the leg room, and the leg space is absolutely immense in the front of these seats, and the headroom again is pretty dang good. I'd say about 4 or 5 inches, and this seat is in an upright position. If I was in the driver's seat and I have it lowered, you get like 6 or 7 inches. I'm taking a look up above, and you do get a little safety latch. So this is an SOS button in case you find yourself in trouble, and that's good to see. And then there are vanity mirrors in this vehicle, and they are illuminated, which is a nice touch. I'm glad they added that. Okay, now taking a look at the back seats of this vehicle briefly, and you know what, there is a lot of space back here, much like the front. 100%. I have ample leg space. Yeah, my legs are up on the roof, guys. 100%. Now I have ample headspace. I'd say a good 4 or 5 inches. 100%. Again, I'm about 5'10", 5'10 and a half on a good day. And as far as leg space goes, plenty, like 6-7 inches of leg space. The seat is in a comfortable seating position for me as a passenger in the front. Anyways, there is 2 air conditioning vents back here. They're very cheap looking and plastic, just like the cheapest plastic ever, and it's like they're hard to even adjust because of how small the little handle is. Now as far as the comfortability of the seats in the back, much like the front, they are very comfortable. They're kind of reclined a little bit, so you can just chill back here. Actually adds to the headroom. As far as bolsters go, don't ask me about it, because there's no bolstering back here. Thankfully, there is oh crap handlebars in the front and the back of this vehicle, so you'll be secure if you've been working out that arm strength. Just kind of lock yourself down and pray for the best. Anyways, there is a little armrest back here as well, and it's just lined in that vinyl. It's very squishy feeling, so it's pretty comfortable for your arm. And then additionally, you get 2 cup holders. And below those air vents I was talking about, there is 2 USB ports. So you get a total of 5 USB ports in this vehicle. As far as the floorboards go, in the back and the front, it's all lined in rubber. So if you spill anything, you know, you're transporting kids, or you just got back from a wild hike or mountain bike ride, you don't have to worry about your floor mats. All right, now getting this 2020 RAV4 out on the road. And the first thing I notice is driving position is nice, 100%. The visibility is actually really, really good. The A pillar is just super small. The B pillar is kind of chunky and kind of ish in your blind spot, but not too bad at all. Visibility in the back through the rear view is good as well. But overall, the front visibility in this car is just superb. Now, as I'm getting on the gas, I'm on these back roads right now, and this car is, that 2.5 liter 4-cylinder is quite loud, and it definitely doesn't sound the best. There is a little bit of wind noise I'm picking up. No real tire noise, and that's a good thing for sure, but wind noise and engine noise, definitely this car has it. It is pretty noticeable, so there's one thing to keep in mind. Granted, I don't have the AC on or the radio on or anything, so I'm just truly listening to all the sounds that this car is making. Now I'm going around a corner, and you know what, it stays pretty planted. I'm carrying some speed. There is a little bit of initial body roll, but it's minute. As I'm turning the steering wheel through these roads, it's kind of vague on the steering side, for sure. I don't really know what the wheels are doing too much. Responsiveness, though, it's okay. It's pretty good. There's not much play at all in the steering wheel, but there is some, definitely, that I'm noticing. And I would like the steering just to give me a little bit more feedback. Again, it is a little bit vague, but it's nothing unmanageable or anything. Now, as far as just taking it easy and going through bumps and whatnot, it soaks up the bumps relatively well. It doesn't upset the chassis really at all. And it is a smooth and comfortable ride, especially when you're just cruising going straight. I'm gonna put this into its sport mode and give it all she's got real quick. So I'm going to about 35 miles an hour. So this is a typical speed to get up and go on. And oh, we got a nice little bend going around too. Woo! Whoa, Nelly! Holy moly! Sun's in my eyes. All right, she gets up and goes. It's definitely an eventful experience just because of that sound. I mean, you can really hear this engine pushing along this vehicle. And it's not the best sounding. It's not the worst for what it is by any means. And honestly, I'm relatively surprised of how fast it gets up and goes, considering this is a big SUV, big-ish SUV, and it's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that's naturally aspirated. It does pick up pretty well, honestly. However, when you are higher into the speedometer range, going 60-70 miles an hour, it's not as fast, but that's not to say it's gutless. Again, I went from 60 to 70 right there. I don't know if you could hear that engine. I'm sure you could. And it gets up and goes relatively well. It really isn't that slow at all. And for the average person not coming off of like a sports car, but transitioning from a small mid-size SUV to another small mid-size SUV, which this is, they're not gonna feel like, oh, I really wish, you know, I had more power, unless they're coming from like a Porsche Macan or something in that territory. Now, I really love the ride height. Some SUVs nowadays, they kind of go for more of that crossover ride height, and there's pros and cons to both ride heights, but this has a real traditional feeling ride height, a traditional feeling SUV, like body on frame SUV. It feels just planted, and you feel like the king of the road, and just the visibility's there. You're sitting pretty upright and high up in the cabin. It's a good feeling, 100%. I think part of the reason that it feels fast to me for what it is in this powertrain is that 8-speed automatic transmission is very fast at rolling through the gears. It does it effortlessly, and when you're just cruising, I mean, the shifts are super smooth. It's really nice transmission. Getting on the brakes here right now, and you don't have to bite too far into the pedal to get some brake feedback. The brakes seem like they stop pretty well, actually. Alright guys, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. I did enjoy this car. It is nice to drive for the most part, and as far as space goes, it's like second to none. Looks, it's okay. It's got a little rugged design going on. Honestly, in this competitive market space of small, mid-sized SUVs, an SUV that comes to mind that I would prefer over this one would be the Mazda CX-5. I just think the interior looks nicer. It looks more premium. I love the way it drives. It's a little bit more sporty feeling. However, there are pros to this car. One off the top of my mind is definitely the reliability, as well as just the overall space. There's a lot of space in the front seats, in the back seats, and the trunk. Now, with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in to watch this video. And again, if you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button. I'm going to be posting a lot more videos once a week, guys. Start of 2020, new me, new decade. Let's go. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.